everybody. So we're going to talk about Wulfenite, which was recently declared the official state mineral of Arizona, and that's by legislative fiat. First we're going to talk about a little bit about how Wulfenite became the official state mineral, and then we'll get into some of the more important Wulfenite localities in Arizona that have produced collectible specimens. So, how did Wulfenite become the official state mineral of Arizona? Well, like most states, we have all kinds of official things that have been declared over the years. And these are official, meaning that they're, on the books at the state capital as our official things. So things like state birds, state fish, state mammal. We even have an official state neckwear, which is the bola tie, that you can see Eric Fritz is modeling one right there. We've got an official state gun, the Colt single action revolver. But down here at the bottom, I've listed some of the things that, there it is, some of the things that we might be interested in. The official state gemstone of Arizona is turquoise, naturally, since Arizona produces so many great gem quality specimens of turquoise from different locations. The official state fossil is petrified wood. We have a natural or a national park that's named and dedicated to petrified wood. And a few years ago, we acquired an official state metal, which of course is copper, Arizona being the #1 producer of copper for many years in Arizona, but no state mineral. So certain mineral collectors realized that we had no state mineral, so they thought we should change that. Now, why choose Wulfenite? Of course, Arizona produces many great minerals that are found here. Copper minerals, you could name it. Pick azurite as the state mineral, perhaps, but why choose Wulfenite? Well, Arizona has more world-class Wulfenite localities than any other place on the planet. At last count, there's over 200 known occurrences of Wulfenite. Most are small crystals, but that's more than any other state in the United States. And of course, Wulfenite is a highly desirable, attractive mineral that collectors worldwide love to collect. So Wulfenite is really a natural pick. Not only that, but Arizona Wulfenite has been featured on numerous show posters, such as these here. Wulfenite from Arizona has graced the covers of mineral books, other publications such as mineral magazines, mineral dealer advertisements, and mineral calendars. So Wulfenite is a logical choice. But first, let's talk a little bit about what is Wulfenite. I'm sure most of you know this stuff already, but we'll kind of go over it. It's a lead molybdate, that's the chemical formula. Lead, molybdenum, and oxygen. It forms in the tetragonal crystal system, and when you think tetragonal, you want to think of minerals like scheelite, sulfur, anatase, zircon, that sort of thing. That's the tetragonal form. Wulfenite generally doesn't look like that. We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. It's a soft mineral, generally colorful, oranges and yellows, reds. However, pure Wulfenite, absolutely pure Wulfenite, is colorless. You've seen specimens from the Sumeb mine that are nearly colorless or colorless. It's a member of the scheelite group. and an end member of the Stolzite Wulfenite series. So if you look at the chemical formula here, scheelite is calcium tungstate. Stolzite is the tungsten end member of the Wulfenite Stolzite series, and Wulfenite's the molybdenum end member of that series, which forms a solid solution. Where does it form? It forms as a secondary mineral in oxidized or deeply weathered hydrothermal lead deposits. And the minerals that it can associate with are those that you might expect other secondary lead minerals like cerussite, mimetite, vanadinite, motromite, that sort of thing. Who was it named after? This gentleman here, Franz Xaver von Wulfen, who in 1785 authored a monograph on the lead ores of Bleiburg, Carinthia, Austria. And one of the minerals he described, which hadn't been named yet, was Wulfenite in this monograph. So in 1845, it was by world mineralogists decided to name Wulfenite in his honor, back when they were busy naming species. So the type locality for Wulfenite is Bleiburg, Austria. So here is your idealized tetragonal crystal form. We'll talk a little bit about crystallography here. So looking at the side of a tetragonal crystal form, looks like this, two steep pyramids, one on top of the other, and a top view over here on this side, looking down what's called the C-axis. So, however, Wulfenite generally, although it can look like this, it usually doesn't. Wulfenite likes to do this. And so what's going on here is that you're seeing extreme growth on the pyramid faces. So it likes to grow out sideways, if you will. And what this creates is a situation where looking down the C-axis or the top of the crystal, you get this big flat pinacoid face. And that's what creates the bladed form of Wulfenite. So if we toggle back and forth here, you can see that most Wulfenite crystals are really kind of squished, in a manner of speaking. So what you end up with is that. And these are some Wulfenite crystals that were collected in early 2015 at the Red Cloud mine. So just think of that when you're looking at these blades, you're actually looking at the tops of the crystals. All right, well, how did State Bill 2092 come to be? That's the bill that declared Wulfenite as the official state mineral. Well, it was largely due to the efforts of these two gentlemen. The fella on the left, you all know, most of you anyway, Dr. Alex Schaus, lives in Oro Valley. Just north of here, he's a prominent thumbnail collector and has been involved in various mineral exploits, I think since the 1960s, or the 70s. He was working at the American Museum of Natural History as a teenager under Dr. Fred Poe. He's very proud of his license plate there, Perky Box, and it's quite a story of what he had to go through to get that license plate approved by the Motor Vehicle Department. Needless to say, they did not approve of what they thought it meant. So he finally got it, and he took this picture with a thumbs up. So, yeah, I think he had to send letters and emails explaining what a Perky box actually was.
Well, the other thing, Evan, was that it was a result of Peter McGaw's article about Willard Perkins and the Perky box in Rocks and Minerals, right, Peter?
That's what convinced the motor vehicle department? All right, good on you, Peter. All right. Yeah. And the other guy on the right, many of you know, that's Chris Whitney Smith, president of the Mineralogical Society of Arizona, very active in just about every mineral group in the state, and probably even some out of state. A very beloved figure in our community. So I won't read all of this, but I kind of put together a timeline of what these guys had to go through to get this bill passed. So really it all started in 2015 when copper was designated as the official state metal. Alex had noticed this and thought, well, we really need a state mineral. So he thought Wulfenite, after consulting with a bunch of us, he said, why don't we try to get Wulfenite as a state mineral? So he contacted his local state representative to sponsor a bill, and he agreed to do that, but the first year it died in committee. So a year later, he had to, wait a whole year till the next session, and it was reintroduced, and actually it passed committee in February of 2017, right at the beginning of the Tucson show that year. So these guys really had to kick it into high gear. So they were running around collecting signatures for a petition to turn into the legislators up in Phoenix. And some of the things they did, they brought a group of young collectors to the Capitol to help promote the bill, to meet the senators. And by this time, it had passed the House of Representatives. They passed out calendars and flyers and doing all sorts of things. One thing you'll notice is that every time, House votes 57-1 to pass the bill. I've always wondered who is that one guy or one lady who did not want this to go through. We could never figure out who that was. But darn it, shame on them. So anyway, the bill got sent to the Senate on February 10th. They kept working hard. And they had actually set up an exhibit at the TGMS show that year to help promote the passage of this bill. And representatives from the state legislature and the governor's office came down and saw the case. And so they got the tour of the show, and the case received television coverage. So really a lot of great publicity for this. So by the end of the show that year, the bill passed actually after the show ended. The bill passed the Senate by 28-1. Who is that one? And on the 22nd of March, 2017, Governor Doug Ducey signed the bill, making it official. So that's kind of the whole story. Here are some pictures that I got from Chris documenting some of these things. These are the future rockhounds of America, most of whom I think are younger members of the MSA group. Here they are with their promotional materials at the state capitol that year. This is a flyer that was put together by Chris and Don Buchel to promote the bill. And this is the case that they put in at the show that year with the special labels designed by Don Buchel. And most of us Arizona collectors contributed to that case. And here's Chris witnessing the moment when the bill passed the Senate on March 16th of that year. Victory at last. All right. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. I've made a list of what I felt were the most important Wulfenite specimen producing localities in the state. And I've listed them by county. So down in Cochise County, we've got the Hilltop Mine, the Defiance Mine, Silver Bill Mine, which are right next to each other, and the Tombstone District, Gila County. Well, I won't read them all off, but you can read them there. And thanks to John Callahan, I have this lovely map showing all of said localities. And one thing you'll notice is that they're all in southern Arizona. It's not that there's no Wulfenite at all in northern Arizona, but why are all the good ones in southern Arizona? Well, that's due to the geology of southern Arizona. We are in what is called the Basin and Range geologic province. And I've put up a map here, and it covers a large part of western North America. So why are these minerals here? In fact, we're in the middle of the Basin Range right here. It's exactly what it says. It's basins and ranges, valleys and mountains. More valleys separated by more mountains. So just in a nutshell, and we'll just go through the beginning here, starting 80 million years ago, a tectonic event called the Laramide orogeny started approximately 80 million years ago. And this was a pretty serious mountain building event that went on for millions of years, basically creating the entire Rocky Mountains and other things. Well, during that time period, there was a lot of magmatism and intrusive igneous rock that was coming up. And as these things came up, they brought with them mineralizing fluids containing metals such as lead, copper, zinc, gold, silver. And so these mineralizing fluids emplaced a lot of ore bodies during that time and actually at later times. Well, starting around 17 million years ago, what started happening in this part of the continent is the crust started pulling apart. There was an extension of the lithosphere. And what this did is this created a lot of faulting. So valleys were formed dropping down, mountain ranges rising up. And because of this, you had a lot of weathering, a lot of erosion. So mountains eroded, valleys filled up. But what this did to the ore bodies and the metallic ore veins that were here is it exposed them to deep weathering. And with deep weathering and groundwater percolating through in various stages, water tables going up and down, you had a lot of alteration of these primary ore minerals, primary sulfide ore minerals like galena. And what happens to galena when it alters? It turns into other minerals such as wulfenite, such as cerussite, so on and so forth. So that's kind of in a nutshell why southern Arizona has lots of these secondary minerals. Not that there aren't any in northern Arizona, but northern Arizona is part of the Colorado Plateau, which is basically a big stack of sedimentary rock hasn't been altered or eroded very much. Okay, back to our map. Now let's start focusing in on some of these localities, and we're going to do it by county. So let's go to the extreme southeastern corner of the state to Cochise County. I put a little star over each of these counties so you can kind of follow us around. All right, going to a place called Gleason, which is east of Tombstone. There's a little mountain range there called Gleason Ridge, and that's where the Defiance Mine is located. So most of these mines have long since been abandoned. Originally were worked for silver, for lead, for gold, that sort of thing. And Wulfenite, in many cases, was one of the ore minerals at these mines. But after World War II, most of these mines were closed, and collectors realized that you could go into these places and find wonderful things. And that was certainly true of the Defiance Mine. And in 1958, a huge watercourse type pocket was encountered by the mining company that was still working the property. And they contacted Dick Bedeau, according to my dad. And Dick Bedeau went out there and was able to collect all these things. So Wulfenite specimens from this pocket are very distinctive. They have this distinct coxcomb crystal habit. Here's a piece from Les's collection where you can really see this coxcomb type crystal habit. And so these were all collected in 1957 by Dick Bedeau and his collecting partners. So if you see one of these, this specimen's in the case out in the lobby. If you see one of these, that you know it's from this pocket. It produced hundreds and hundreds of pieces in many, many, many flats. Some of them have calcite crystals on them. Others, the calcites were etched off, and then others just had no calcite. So now this is not the only style of Wulfenite that can be found at the Defiance Mine. I don't think I have, here's another one from 1957. That one's 12 centimeters across. Look at the size of this crystal up here. That's a big, big crystal at the top. I don't think I have pictures, but there are other colors and crystal habits of Wulfenite found in the Defiance over many years. But I only put up pictures of the famous ones from 57. Well, right next door to the Defiance Mine is the Silver Bill Mine. And this has produced a whole host of wonderful minerals over the years. Rosacite, smithsonite, malachite pseudomorphs, and Wulfenite. Here's one from Mark Hayes' collection, beautiful kind of lemony yellow blades. Here's another one. And I should say that the Defiance Mine has also produced some similar stuff to this, which might be expected since they're right next door. This is an interesting piece. Kind of looks like the United States a little bit. And here's one with, it's a nice combination of Wulfenite on hemimorphite from the Silver Bill Mine. All right, moving down to the Chiricahua Mountains is the Hilltop Mine. The Hilltop Mine produced a lot of material in the first half of the 20th century. And specimens from here are really distinctive. You've all seen them. And basically what they, at least the classic Hilltop Mine specimens look like, are these very, very lemon yellow crystals on crystallized white calcite. A great number of these were collected by famed field collector Edwin Over in the late 1930s. I believe it was 1939, so a year after he made his great discovery at the Red Cloud mine. So here's one of those specimens collected by Ed Over in 1939 at the Hilltop, and this is in the collection of Mark Hay. Here's another one, 12 centimeters tall. Really wonderful color on this stuff and great contrast on the white calcite. Zooming in a little bit on one of these things, you'll notice the blades tend to be a little frosty with kind of smooth beveled edges. But they can also be a little thicker and a little more tabular. Now here's a specimen that was in the collection of Arthur Montgomery. He was a famed mineralogist and mineral collector on the East Coast who sent field collector Ed Over all over the place in pursuit of fine minerals, including the Red Cloud and including the Hilltop. And a lot of these specimens eventually were marketed through a company called Shortman's in Massachusetts. So sometimes you'll get old Shortman's labels with some of these things. But this piece was actually in Art Montgomery's collection, and I've got his label with it. Okay, let's go over to the Tombstone District. Now, most of you probably think silver when you think of Tombstone. That's what Tombstone was founded upon, fabulous silver deposits. But some of these ore bodies also had some lead and hence some Wulfenite and cerussite and mimetite. So here's a specimen in Les's collection from the Tough Nut / Empire mine. Now you'll see me put that notation, Tough Nut / Empire, because they connect underground, and as I understand it, it's a little difficult to tell which side of the line your specimen might be from, since they were both exploiting the same ore body. But now correct me if I'm wrong. Is Les still here? No, he left. But I think some older material is probably going to be the Tough Nut side, Tough Nut ground, and more recent material in the later part of the 20th century is from the Empire side. Really good quality stuff. I mean, every bit as good of quality Wulfenite as some of the other more famous locations in Arizona, often associated with mimetite. Here's a 6.5 centimeter wide specimen in Mark Hay's collection, again associated with mimetite. And another one that looks to be from the same pocket in Les's collection, 5 centimeters. Here's an example that was more recently collected. This probably came out in the 80s or the 90s. Actually 80s, I'm pretty sure. Wulfenite crystals with no mimetite. Okay, well, leaving Cochise County, we're going to move a little northwest to Gila County, where there's one really important location and another one very close by. That's the 79 mine and the Finch mine. So let's take a look at the 79 mine. Now the 79 mine was worked for base metals in the earlier part of the 20th century. But starting in about the 1960s, field collectors started hitting it really heavy. A great number of wonderful mineral species are found here. Very colorful things, everything from smithsonite to Wulfenite to hemimorphite to cerussite, even galena and pyrite in the lower levels. Just a lot of great stuff has come out of the 79 mine over the years. Orichalcite, rosacite, and just chrysocolla. You name it, the 79 mine just about had it. So that's a picture looking kind of from above. The main portal is kind of over here, right about there, below that dump. So that's me heading down to the 400 level, where most of the active collecting takes place in 2018. Eagerly awaiting those wonderful Wulfenite specimens that we hope to collect. And oh my gosh, there's an open pocket of Wulfenite just sitting there, but we weren't allowed to collect this one. And I think the reason it was still sitting there is they were trying to figure out, the owners of the property were trying to figure out how to extract it without breaking all those thin, delicate blades. But if you've ever wondered what a Wulfenite pocket looks like underground, there you go. That's field of view on that is probably about 6, 7 inches, maybe. And you can see that's the classic type for the 79 mine. Very thin yellow blades. But in the early 70s, what became known later as the red spot pocket was hit. And now the red spot Wulfenites were named obviously because right in the center they have this red spot which represents an earlier stage of crystal growth. But as it grew, the crystal decided it didn't want to be red anymore and it went orange. So some coloring agent, some chromophore that was in there dropped out of solution. And so that's probably the finest example of a red spot Wulfenite, and that's in Mark Hayes' collection. The crystal there is, just about an inch. It's really a great piece. Many specimens of Wulfenite from the 79 mine, especially in those early days, were associated with microcrystals of motramite, sparkly black microcrystals, makes for a really nice contrast. But this just illustrates one of the wonderful traits of Wulfenite crystals from the 79 mine. Real gemmy window pane blades with sharp beveled edges. Really pleasing stuff. Here's a crystal associated with white hemimorphite from John Callahan's collection. He and George Godis owned the 79 mine for quite some time and worked it for specimens for many years. And we can thank them for a lot of great material that's been on the market for a long time. They subsequently sold the property to a couple of other collectors up in Phoenix who are now working the mine for specimens. This crystal is 2.5 centimeters on edge in George Godis's collection. And again, just you can see the very delicate nature of some of these crystals from the 79 mine. You really have to handle them with care. This is from an earlier but fairly famous find that was made in 1969. And the name of the guy who collected them escapes me. But this is a specimen that my dad had bought from the guy who collected them. And color is really good on these. Again, they're just as fragile as some of the others. But again, you can see associated with the motramite down here. Another specimen from the Callahan-Godis time period. This one's interesting because these Wulfenite crystals are completely encrusted with blue hemimorphite. And that's the finest example of that I know of in the collection of Mark Hay now. Good sized piece too, 6.5 centimeters. Now, apparently there were larger crystals, but John Callahan has not displayed this one yet, but he kind of let the cat out of the bag when he sent me this picture. So, of course, we know this is perfectly unretouched. Yep, the camera never lies, that's right, especially if it's on the internet. Well, not far from the 79 mine is the Finch mine. Now, for a little while, there was a gentleman up in Phoenix that was working the property and owned the claim or had rights to the claim. And he called it the Barking Spider Mine. So I don't want to get into why he called it the Barking Spider Mine, but I prefer the Finch mine name. So that's what we're going to use here. Now, what's distinctive about Wulfenite specimens from the Finch mine is they are nearly all coated in quartz. Now, this makes them very sturdy and a lot more durable than most Wulfenite specimens. So that's a neat thing. And here's an example of what I'm talking about. The quartz coating can be very thin. Sometimes it can be really thick. Sometimes it's sparkly. Sometimes it's not. But nearly all of them have quartz on them. And like at the neighboring 79 mine, you also get hemimorphite, vanadinite, and a few other interesting secondary lead and zinc minerals. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Quartz on Wulfenite, on quartz, on hemimorphite. This is an older specimen collected in the 1960s. It was in the collection of a fellow by the name of Tom McKee, who at one time had the finest collection of minerals in Arizona, a worldwide collection. And this was in his collection, quartz on orange blades of Wulfenite from the Finch mine. Quartz on Wulfenite with some calcite from the Finch in Les Presmick's collection. All right, now we're going to truck on over to the western part of the state, to La Paz County, which for a long time was actually the northern half of Yuma County, but sometime in the, I think the late 70s, they decided to split the county in half, so the southern half of Yuma County stayed Yuma County, and the northern half became La Paz County with the county seat of Quartzsite. So what happened is that the Red Cloud mine was in the La Paz County section. So starting in the late 1970s or so, we had to start naming red clouds La Paz County rather than Yuma County. So when you see old Red Cloud labels, they will say Yuma County. All right, well, the Red Cloud is arguably the most legendary, most well-known, and certainly possibly the finest producer of Wulfenite in the state, if not the world. You'll get other people that say other things, but it's certainly right up there at the very top as far as a world-class Wulfenite locality. I put up a couple pictures here. Prior to the 1990s, access was only down through the underground here, but in the 1990s, a group of people who worked the Red Cloud for specimens decided to open pit the surface vein exposure, and you can see the dump over there from that. So starting in the mid-90s, a lot of material started hitting the market again due to this project, mining for specimens. And they hit a fabulous pocket in 1996, which I'll show you some pictures. Here's a photo from underground in the South Stopes, taken by Bud Stanley. You can see the vein has been removed there with those really nice stalls in place holding up the ceiling. So we can't talk about the Red Cloud mine without talking a little bit about this guy, Edwin C. Over. As I explained a little bit earlier, he worked with mineralogist Arthur Montgomery, who sent him out field collecting for specimens, which they could then sell in the first half of the 20th century primarily. So in 1938, he got permission from the mine owners to collect Wulfenite at the Red Cloud. And according to the story that I heard from my dad, which I believe he heard from Ed Over himself, the deal was, yeah, he could go down and collect, but he had to show the mine owners everything that he found. So, well, he goes down there and after a while hits this amazing pocket with huge crystals. So he's, how does he get this stuff out of the mine? Well, what he did was he put all the good stuff in the bottom of the flats, then covered the crystals with packing material, and then put a bunch of junky stuff on top, took it all to the surface. Well, let me see what you got. And, oh, here's what I found. And the mine owners saw all this stuff. Oh, well, you can just have all that. Sure, just take it. So I don't know if the story's true, but it sounds true enough. And so that's pretty funny. As I said earlier, he also collected fine Wulfenites at the Hilltop the following year. And all this stuff was, whatever they didn't keep was marketed through Shortman's Minerals in Massachusetts. Well, some time ago, I was able to acquire this stock certificate, which you'll see out in the display case there. And this was the company, this was issued by the company that allowed Ed Over in there to collect. Because if you look at the date on the stock certificate, it's 1938, and that's the year that Ed Over hit all the fabulous Wulfenites. So that's pretty cool. And what do these great Wulfenites look like that Ed Over collected? Here's one of the finest examples. This one's in the collection of Wayne and Donna Light. Prior to that, I think it was in Dick Bedeau's collection. And look at that, it's 4.5 centimeters, fiery red and really gemmy, at least around the edges. So this is what really put the Red Cloud mine on the map. And, I didn't say it earlier, but the whole reason that Art Montgomery sent Ed over out there is Arthur had seen specimens at a museum of Wulfenite from the Red Cloud mine that were collected in the late 1800s. And he saw these things and said, hey, we've got to go out there and check this out. So that's what gave them the motivation. Here's another example of an Edover collected specimen from 1938. This was in a museum in Switzerland, actually. 4.7 centimeter crystal, and that's now sitting in my collection. And of course, in later years, many collectors have been to the Red Cloud finding wonderful things. This is a thumbnail Wulfenite on mimetite collected by Bob Lane in 1984, now in the collection of Kyle Kevorkian. And I mentioned the collecting project of the mid-1990s. This is one of the better pieces that was found when they hit a major pocket on April Fool's Day of 1996. And this pocket was a fissure or a crack. I'm not sure how many feet it went back, but it was completely lined on both sides with Wulfenite crystals. Nobody had ever found a pocket like that at the Red Cloud mine. Most pockets at the Red Cloud are fist size or smaller. And so here was this whole, entire crevice lined with crystals. So nothing has been found since then like that. And one would presume in the 1800s maybe they found some things like that, but those were destroyed, I'm sure. So this specimen you can see out in the display case in the lobby. It's out there. This is from the same pocket. That's in the collection of Rudolph Watzel in Austria. 6 centimeter tall specimen. This one is more recent, collected in 2015. A miniature. Also from 2015 in the collection of Fabian Wildfang in Germany. Same time period, 2015. That's in the case out front. Matrix here is barite, which is a little unusual for the Red Cloud mine. A little more recent, from 2017. All right. Next, we've got the North Geronimo mine. And the reason I drew this black line between the Red Cloud and the North Geronimo on this map that I lifted off of Mindat is this is the approximate trace of what's known as the Red Cloud Fault. And the Red Cloud Fault is pretty highly mineralized, all the way up and down from south to north, from the Red Cloud to the North Geronimo. And it pretty much ends abruptly just past the North Geronimo. So one of the results of this is that specimens of Wulfenite from this vein system along the fault, they look kind of the same. North Geronimo pieces, though, on average, tend to have better color than crystals from the Red Cloud mine. However, this location has produced far fewer specimens. So this example, you can see that fantastic color. Here's another one from the North Geronimo. You know, I mean, it's really hard to tell the difference between North Geronimo and Red Cloud pieces. I mean, there are subtle differences. If you see enough of them, you can kind of tell, but it's pretty tough. This one was collected by George Godis in the 1980s. Or maybe 90s. Don't quote me on that. Really wonderful crystal from the North Geronimo. That's 3 centimeters across in Mark Hayes' collection. In this cherry red crystal, 3.3 centimeters. Probably the single finest, or the best single crystal, rather, from the North Geronimo, collected by, again, George Godis, Mr. Wulfenite. He's got a real nose for Wulfenite. He's collected a lot of great things over the years. And this specimen's out in the display case. Well, Maricopa County, in the central part of the state where Phoenix is located, really has only one world-class Wulfenite location, and that's the Rowley mine. Most of you have heard of or perhaps have even been to the Rowley mine. So here's some photos that we took a while back. There's really 3 access points. There's a vertical shaft, there's a decline, which you can see in the left-hand picture, and there's another smaller shaft at the north end of the property called the Job's shaft. And there's me down at about the 125-foot level. We were invited out there by the mine owners at that time. And we were fortunate enough to be there when they had just found this pocket. We were not allowed to touch it or collect it, understandably, but I was able to get some pictures. So again, that's what a Wulfenite pocket looks like underground. Field of view there is about 40 centimeters across. So those are 1-inch crystals in there, folks, the largest ones. That's pretty big for Rowley. So what do they look like when they've been collected and in somebody's collection and photographed by somebody like Jeff Scoville? Well, they look like this. This one was found in 2004 by Ed Davis, a very prolific Arizona field collector. This one I call the helicopter because it's got that floating crystal sitting on top, sort of perched on like a pedestal of matrix. The Rowley mine is, the crystals from there it's well known for these window pane type crystals, kind of like the 79 mine. A lot of window panes, thin, transparent, lustrous crystals. Really like this piece. 6.5 centimeters across with really red mimetite crystals associated with the Wulfenite. This was collected in the 2010s sometime. This piece, again, you'll see out in the front case there. collected in 1985 by George Godis. One of the better pieces known from the mine. It's also on the cover of the latest edition of Mineralogy of Arizona. So that was a happy thing for me since I own the piece. Here's one that's on the cover of the Collecting Arizona book in Mark Hayes' collection. Finely bladed Wulfenite with mimetite. You even get Wulfenite associated with the blue copper silicate chrysocolla. Very striking color combination. In fact, there's a lot of copper at the Rowley mine. Here's a specimen that we nicknamed the Shark. And that picture is in my front yard in the afternoon sun. And you can actually see that specimen also here because it's in Scott Rudolph's room. Available for purchase, even better. And this is a really fine piece. It's tough to get a complete pocket of Wulfenite from the Rowley mine, and here you have the whole pocket. Specimens from the Rowley can get pretty big. Not always, but occasionally they can. This one's 18 centimeters across. And another one that is 15 centimeters across, associated with mimetite and barite from the Rowley. Can you tell I like Rowley mine Wulfenite? Got a lot of pictures of Rowley stuff. And here's another one collected in 2004 from the Rowley. And that was in Keith Proctor's collection for a while, I believe. All right. Northwestern part of the state, Mojave County, is the Rawhide mine. It's a very small, abandoned mine. Really hasn't produced a lot of material, but what it has produced is very beautiful, so I thought I'd include it. Didn't have a good picture of the mine, so I pulled this off of Mindat. It's west of Alamo Lake, not too far from the California border. So let's look at a couple of specimens from the Rawhide mine. This one's associated with little flowers of quartz crystals. Kind of neat. Intensely colored crystal from the Rawhide mine. That's a thumbnail. But far and away, the best piece that I know of is in Mark Hayes' collection from the Rawhide mine, collected by David Shannon, avid field collector here in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And that's 3.5 centimeters across with mimetite. Just a stunning, stunning piece. Okay, we're here in Tucson. We're here in Pima County. So let's take a look at some Wulfenite localities in Pima County. The old Yuma mine, which you can see here, these photos were taken in 1983, is located just northwest of the city in the Tucson Mountains. And for many years, field collectors could go there and find Wulfenite and vanadinite primarily. During this time period in the 80s, it was owned by Dick Bedeau, and they were working it for specimens. So basically the left-hand picture was taken from up here at the at the top of the structure. And the right-hand picture was taken from down there, just to the right of that shaft. Crystals from the old Yuma mine are generally very fiery orange in color. And this is arguably the finest specimen in existence from the mine in the collection of this Tucson local John Caesar. And these were collected in the early 1970s, this pocket here. And that's 10 centimeters tall, that crystal. Don't ask to buy it, it's not for sale. And I wouldn't sell it either. Some people refer to Wulfenite specimens from the old Yuma as orange clouds. And this specimen shows you why. I mean, it really does look like a red cloud, but it's orange. Now, you know, there are some orangey crystals that have been found at the Red Cloud mine, but they're not really orange. They're kind of reddish orange. Wulfenites from the old Yuma are super orange. So with that thick crystal and heavy, beveling on the edges, they look like orange clouds. So that's what we kind of jokingly call them. More orange clouds. That one's 9 centimeters tall from the old Yuma. Another really nice old Yuma specimen that's in the case out there that I was really happy to acquire from the Bryant Harris collection. Really good color. It's about the best color you can get from an old Yuma specimen. Now the story goes that the old Yuma was operating during the war, it's World War II, I guess. It operated for lead and molybdenum, and they were shipping truckloads of vanadinite and Wulfenite concentrate. So that's a lot of specimens. One of my favorite specimens from this mine is this one with that really neat zoned window pane crystal on the left of Wulfenite with twin cerussite crystals. This was collected by Gene Schlepp, and again, it's out there in the case. You can take a look at it. Also in Pima County, south of here in the Empire Mountains, is the Total Wreck mine. This photo is from 1909, and the Total Wreck has produced quite a number of very nice Wulfenite specimens, including this one, which looks a little bit like something from the Glove mine, but it's from the Total Wreck, collected by a fellow by the name of Dave Smith in 1991. It's got a really neat, beautiful dusting of calcite crystals on the Wulfenite blades. But also from the Total Wreck, you see specimens like this with your more traditional transparent window panes, and that's in Mark Hayes' collection. Pinal County, just north of us, is where Tiger is located. We all have heard of Tiger, famous for its rare lead species and copper minerals. So let's take a look at some of those. Here's a really neat picture of the Mammoth Mine. So the Mammoth Mine was the first mine in the area, which started in the 1880s, was discovered in the 1880s, and began work in the 1880s and into the 1890s. Right here, they're mining the outcrop of the Collins vein. So if you were to go up there now, this entire area in between these two peaks is gone. So the entire vein was mined out. It's now called the Collins Cut. But this is the first operating mine in the district which worked the outcrop of the vein. Later on, they sunk a shaft over here called the Mammoth Shaft to work the vein, and down here the Mohawk Shaft. There's actually two veins here, the Collins vein and the Mammoth vein, I believe. And this is the town of Schultz in 1903, which was the small town that sprung up around the mines. Now, this town was later renamed Tiger in 1918. I'm not sure when it was renamed Tiger, but we do know that all of the workings here were consolidated in 1918 as the Mammoth St. Anthony mine. So I'm not sure, I'll have to look up when the town of Schultz was named Tiger. So early specimens from the 1800s, you might see labeled Schultz, Arizona, or Schultz Mine, something like that, and that's why they're named that way. It was only later that Schultz became Tiger. Now, the thing that, you know what, I'm going to fast forward. The thing that we don't want to do is name our specimens from the Tiger mine. I see this over and over again. Specimens from here labeled Tiger mine. Well, there was no Tiger mine. So everything should either be labeled Mammoth mine or Mammoth St. Anthony mine, really. Or Schultz or something like that. But not Tiger mine. None of the mines were named Tiger mine. So, okay, let's back up here. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, remember I mentioned earlier that outcrop of the Collins vein was completely worked out. Here we are on a field trip in that open cut, looking for Wulfenite. And we actually did find small amounts of Wulfenite in the surrounding rock, but let me tell you, they got all the good stuff. So, well, that's me. You might recognize some of these other people. That's Dr. Ray Grant next to me. This is Phoenix area collector Bill Yedowitz. And down here, typical for him, is Mike Shannon. He doesn't want to pose for the picture. He's busy digging. So, and I don't blame him because he was actually finding really nice specimens of creasyite right there on that field trip. Creasyite is a fairly rare mineral. Tiger is the type locality for creasyite. So that was a fun little trip. All right. The oldest Wulfenite specimens you will see look like this. These are from the Mammoth mine, from Schultz, before it was Tiger. And as I understand it, these came from that open cut. So Schultz Wulfenites are very distinctive. They're orange, but almost all of them have this kind of a black, smoky appearance on the backs of the crystals, which are manganese oxide inclusions. So, one side of the specimen is orange, you flip it over, and then they're kind of black. So that's how you can tell this early material from the 1800s. And that's a really fine example there in Mark Hayes' collection. Here's one that's in my collection. The other thing I noticed about these is they're on barite crystals or quartz. So these form directly on these crystallized gangue minerals, So this one actually is on barite. But again, you can see that smoked color, almost like, it looks like they've been burnt a little bit or something. But those are manganese oxide inclusions, and this is really distinctive for this old stuff. Here's another one that's in the U of A collection. Over there on the right side, you can see the little manganese oxide inclusions. You've got mimetite, but here they're on quartz crystals. So this is a really, really great specimen. And I think the number of this specimen is really low too. So this is something that was acquired very early on by the university for their collection. Now later on, when specimens were coming out of the Mammoth St. Anthony mine, the crystals tended to be cleaner without the manganese oxide, which is something you expect as you got deeper. So here's a specimen from the Mammoth St. Anthony that probably came out in the 30s or the 40s, 6 centimeters across, originally in the collection of noted Bay Area collector Cliff Kruger. Here's a specimen in Barbara Munchin's collection, 9 centimeters across, associated with mimetite, again from the Mammoth St. Anthony mine. Now everything that you're going to see from Tiger, unless it was collected on fairly recent field trips, had to have been collected prior to 1953. That's when the mine shut down and nothing more came out of Tiger after 53. So all of these wonderful old specimens are pre-53. Here the Wulfenite is on a very lightweight matrix, some sort of a clay material. It weighs almost nothing, and that's pretty typical of a lot of specimens from there. The little dots you see on there, the little dark dots, that's the mineral fornacite. But what makes specimens from Tiger really desirable and kind of legendary are these combinations. Wulfenite with dioptase, and these just make for really eye-appealing specimens. So orange Wulfenite with green dioptase. And often these are associated with cerussite. So you get the 3 minerals, and that's kind of the triumvirate from Tiger that you want in your specimen. This beautiful piece is in Mark Hayes' collection. He's got a lot of great rocks. Anytime Mark puts in on an exhibit or anywhere, you're going to see some great stuff. Here's a really good example of that combination, that 3 species combination of Wulfenite, dioptase, and cerussite. And there's even a 4th mineral there, fornacite. So you've got 4 secondary mineral species there. Once again, there is no Tiger mine. Well, not far from Tiger is another small mine called the Ford Mine, and it's located in the wash directly behind. This is a Google Earth image that I got. So the town of Tiger basically was located about here. The hill with the open cut is right there, about where the cursor is. And then down the back side of the hill, there's this wash. This is called Cloudburst Canyon. And the Ford Mine is located right at the base of the mountain at wash level. And it exploited an extension of the Collins vein. Nowhere near as rich as up at Tiger, but nonetheless produced some pretty cool stuff. And you could go collect there probably even now. There's not much to see anymore. It's caved in and filled in. But in the early days, I guess you could find some pretty good things. And even in later time periods, some really super things were found at the Ford mine. Dave Tribble and Harold Urish, two local field collectors, Harold's now passed away, but they hit a pocket of unbelievable Wulfenites in 2003. And they occurred in a chrysocolla pod. And these are every bit as good as anything from Tiger. You know, that crystal is 6 centimeters tall. I mean, in 50 years of field collecting at the Ford mine, it's a one-time find. Nobody ever found anything like this. So really astonishing stuff, but that was it, one and done. And I think the spot where they found those is just hopelessly buried.
Well, it was about 2 feet above the wash.
Yeah, exactly.
There's been a lot of collecting, well, would-be collecting since then, not so successful.
Yeah. Yeah, what Barbara said, if you didn't hear, the spot where this was found was 2 feet above the wash. So it's been hit pretty hard, and
They were sitting down to have lunch and poking around between bites.
yeah, oh boy, what a great story. So that's the Ford mine. Okay, we're winding down the counties. We're now in the extreme southern part of the state, Santa Cruz County. Near the Mexican border lies the Glove Mine in the Santa Rita Mountains. Now, the Glove Mine, again, was kind of like the Defiance Mine. It was being worked in the 50s for silver and lead by some itinerant, miners who owned the property. They weren't really looking for specimens, but they knew specimens were there because they were finding them. And here's a picture of the main level at the Glove Mine. But in 1958, the guys that were mining the deposit opened up a large chamber completely lined with Wulfenite. And this is the great butterscotch pocket, as collectors eventually decided to call these specimens the butterscotch Wulfenites because that's the color that they are. And they immediately recognized that this was something special. So they eventually contacted some field collectors in Tucson, and 3 guys, Al Haig, Dick Bedeau, and Harry Olson, went down and collected this material. I'm not sure what the field of view is here. Apparently there were 2 of these pockets, one kind of leading into the other. But that's got to be a few feet across. And you can see that it's completely lined. We're fortunate that Harry Olson decided to take color photos of the pocket before it was collected. So, you can just see here that how fabulously rich this discovery is. And we've got a few photos. I'll take a look at that. Fortunately for them, the most cohesive thing here was the Wulfenite. The matrix rock that they were sitting on, the host rock, was a real spongy, soft limonite. So they could just stick their screwdrivers and whatever collecting tools they had underneath and just pop these things off, and they just came right off with no problem. Hundreds and hundreds of pieces were collected. To this day you see these on the market. There's a really good example for sale that I saw in James Webb's room. There's another one I think that Ian has in his room for sale. There's one in Scott Rudolph's room, right? These are the top of the heap for the Glove Mine. This was the best discovery by far, and everybody, if you want a great glove Wulfenite, this is what you want. So they are available, fortunately. And thanks to the miners that allowed these guys to come in and save all these things. So let's take a look at zooming in to the pocket. You can see how amazing this is, and what a sight to behold. I mean, if only everyone had taken pictures of their pockets in place. And I believe the way these things were sold at the time, or at least a lot of them, was by square inch, I think is what my dad told me. So you had a flat or a specimen that was so many square inches, and it was a price per square inch. If you can believe it, not even by the pound, it was per square inch. So I want to I've got acknowledgments at the end of the talk, but I got these photos from Mark Hay. He's got them framed, put on his wall. So I was able to get copies of these. And what do they look like? This is what they look like. From the fabulous 58 pocket. There's another one. Some of these have an encrustation of motramite, and that's what you're seeing down at the bottom there. So that's motramite, which is a lead vanadate, I believe. Some of these get quite large. That one's 20 centimeters across. Obviously, this photo was taken by Rock Currier. You can see his little brass scale there at the bottom. And this is in the ROM collection, Royal Ontario Museum in Canada. Now, the glove has produced all kinds of different styles, habits of Wulfenite crystals over the years. It's been a very prolific producer. Here's one that was also in Dick Bedeau's collection. He had a whole suite of glove mine specimens. These are quite large and thin blades. And I should also point out that the glove mine has produced easily the largest Wulfenite crystals in Arizona, and certainly the United States, and maybe even the world. Crystals from here have been described. Personally, I've seen crystals 6 inches across, not very beautiful and a little damaged, but I think they even got bigger than 6 inches, single giant crystals. So for that reason, the glove mine is also noteworthy. That's in Dave Eicher's collection. He is the editor of Astronomy magazine and an all-around swell guy. Slightly different style from the glove, tinged with a little bit of manganese oxide. But that's 8 centimeters. That's not a small piece. Similar crystal habit to the last one, 10 centimeters across, formerly in the collection of Marty Zinn. Okay, Yavapai County is north of Maricopa County. It does have one location that we should talk about, and that's the Purple Passion Mine. It's a small mine that's perhaps more well known for fluorescent material. It's produced fabulous fluorescents, some of which under the black light you would swear were from Franklin, New Jersey. They're just as colorful. Here's a photo of the portal at the Purple Passion. But the Purple Passion has produced Wulfenite in collectible quality. Although this is a small example associated with purple fluorite, it's produced larger stuff. Here's a 6-centimeter cluster of Wulfenite crystals from the Purple Passion. So I thought I would include it. Okay, we're getting down to the end here. Yuma County, southwestern corner of the state, right down here. So there are a couple of places in Yuma County that have kicked out some decent Wulfenites. They are both located in the Castle Dome district, which is east of Highway 95 and north of Interstate 10, not too far from Yuma. First, we're going to take a look at the Puzzler mine. Now, the Puzzler was kind of rediscovered by collectors in the 90s, I think primarily due to the research by Mark Hay and Dick Morris to find the locality, and they found it. Not only did they find it, but they found some great things, vanadinite and Wulfenite. So here's an example of Wulfenite from the Puzzler mine. This one associated with mimetite. I'm sure you've seen, some of you anyway, the vanadinite from the Puzzler. They made quite a major discovery of that stuff, and there was a lot on the market for some time. A little different style from the Puzzler mine, a little more yellowish, thicker, with beveled edges. More Puzzler mine material. And not too far from the Puzzler is the Hull mine, which in the old days was called the Rialto mine. So if you get a specimen that's labeled Rialto mine, and you say, gee, that looks like something from the Hull mine, well, there's a reason for that. They're the same place. Perhaps it's two different entrances to the same ore body. I'm not sure, but it's really the same location. So yeah, material from here looks a lot like Puzzler stuff. Not surprising since they're nearby and in the same district. But you do get these really interesting combinations of mineral species. Here you see Wulfenite with 6-ling twinned cerussite crystals from the Hull mine. And a lot of these were collected by Graham Sutton, these with the cerussites. I'm not sure if he collected this one, but he did collect an awful lot of those. This is really interesting because the Wulfenite crystals are sitting on a corroded galena. And so this just goes to show you that galena is really the source of the lead for a lot of these secondary lead minerals. You've got crystallized anglesite, which is this kind of sparkly druze that you see on the galena, and Wulfenite. And no doubt the Wulfenite, or the lead in those two minerals, was derived from the deterioration and alteration of the galena underneath. And here's another example of that. Wulfenite on corroded galena. And even a little fluorite thrown in over there on the lower right. So I think that just about completes our tour of Wulfenite. Oh, one more. We're getting towards the end. Now this specimen, as I understand it, was collected by a pretty noteworthy and famous collector who was a friend of many of ours by the name of Bill Mahler. from Southern California, and he apparently collected this specimen in the 1960s from the Rialto mine slash Hull mine. Beautiful yellow crystals, especially that earlier material when, from the Rialto, very lemon yellow Wulfenite crystals were produced during that time period. But here, it's on a really nice fluorite cube. Just love this combination. It's a great specimen, and I'm sure Bill was very happy to have found it. So that brings us to the end of our tour of Wulfenite localities in Arizona, and I want to thank Alex Schaus and Chris Whitney Smith for all the information on how Wulfenite became the Arizona state mineral. I want to thank John Callahan for creating that lovely Wulfenite map of Arizona. Mark Hay for the glove mine photos from the 1958 pocket, and of course Jeff Scoville for other great pictures. I thought I would end with the your typical sunset shot, which of course lines up nicely with the colors of Wulfenite. So thank you very much. Appreciate your attention.